things, it just got intense. You'd swear that your heart is about to pound out of your chest. That bull that you've been working is screaming furious bugles and coming in on a string. Yep, you've done it for sure. That brute is downright angry. 60, 50, closing the distance to 45. Now he's at 20 yards, stopped and looking straight in your direction. Your mind is racing because things are about to get western real fast. He's dead on now, quartering to you. Is that your shot? Should you take it? Friends, that's the scenario that is going to play out thousands of times this year throughout the West. Knowing when to shoot, knowing where to shoot will be the deciding factor between a successful clean kill or a blown opportunity. Or even worst case scenario that no hunter wants, a wounded animal. On today's show, our first topic comes straight from our listeners, all about where and when to shoot. We'll talk about that as well as go to the ElkBros mailbox and answer more questions from our listeners. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volume just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your hosts Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello again, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And for those blue collar hunters out there following our show, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas coming to you from a non-disclosed place in Texas. And joining us from New Mexico is your elk hunting coaches, Joe Gilly and Leroy Chavez.
Non-disclosed, huh? Non-disclosed, huh?
Actually, I'm going to put out a little plug for the Hampton Inn here in Plano, Texas. They're allowing me to use their beautiful meeting room to do our podcast tonight.
That's the best you ever looked, man. I don't know if it's lighting or lack of it.
Probably lack of it, Joe. If you guys are in the Plano area, please stop by. There's friendly staff here and a warm bed and good breakfast in the morning. So that's my plug for the Hampton Inn.
For the hotel.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
Bro.
You betcha.
What's up?
Well, fellas, first thing first, right now, it's going to go to our ElkBros Shout-outs.
There we go.
If you're new to our show, these are just our shout-outs from a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week.
Topping the chart this week, guys. This city's name translates to Dwellers on the Bluff and is the home of the millionaire investor Warren Buffett, as well as having hosted the NCAA World Series for over 50 years, Gilbert. The
Really?
College World Series, yeah, for 50 years.
No doubt.
Yeah. That's Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska's in the house.
The next one up, originally named Edmonton. It's the state capital and holds a Guinness World Record from 2007 when 8,962 people gathered and turned themselves into snow angels. Big shout out to Bismarck, North Dakota.
Oh, so it took 8,962 people to lay out in the same area and make snow angels to get this Guinness Book of World Records. So I'm just like, I don't know. How many were they? Oh, I mean, were they just like one over the – what other state would have done?
I didn't know there was 808,962 people in the whole state of North Dakota.
I mean, here come the letters.
Hey, you can ride in that state. I've worked up there a bunch, around Williston and all that. And right. I'm telling you, Joe, the first time I drove through there, I was on the highway. And, most of their gas stations aren't on the highway. I was on the highway, and I swear to God, the rapture had come because there was not a soul driving on there. I had to call my mama, Joe, and say, Mom, are you still alive? Because my mama and Jesus, they like that, right?
They like
So
that. Okay.
at the end of the day, I thought maybe the rapture had come. But yeah, you get 8,962 people in North Dakota, man. I'm telling you, that's a lot of folks.
You know what? If you're going to lay in the snow, you better have over 8,000 people next to each other just to stay warm.
That's pretty dang chilly. Pretty dang chilly.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Hey, the world's first ever installed parking meter happened here on July 16th, 1935. In a city that I've spent a lot of time in, and it's a great town if you've ever gotten to it, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City, guys. Thanks for watching in the house, man. And so we can blame all these parking meters on Oklahoma City.
Yeah, for real.
Send the mail to them, y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
Up next, this city's name comes from a French term for beautiful view. And this tech-savvy city, the home of Expedia and T-Mobile, has a Wi-Fi hot zone with free access in their business district that they've had there since 2007. You can go in that entire area and get Wi-Fi. Bellevue, Washington.
Way to come out, Bellevue.
Yeah.
Next up, the city that lives on and for the water. This city is world renowned for shipbuilding, known as a shipbuilding hub, and the community's heritage is all about boats and water, and that's Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin.
I saw that, man. It's right out on this peninsula going out there, and I can see where they're definitely about water, man.
No doubt. That's that whole place between Wisconsin and Minnesota is just loaded with lakes and water, and I mean, of course, you got the Great Lakes there. It's got a lot of water up there in that part of the country.
We're making a trip up to Walker, Minnesota here at the beginning of August up there and up on a lake. A good buddy of mine has invited us up there, and
got to do it.
Yeah, I told him what it is. I said, yeah, I hear you guys have a lot of lakes, and he's like, yeah, the state of 1,000, 10,000 lakes or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot for sure. I fished up there. Every pond's got a big fish in it. I mean, it's crazy.
I can do that. We're ready for that.
No doubt. All right, guys. Well, let's get to it.
All right.
I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Davis of Bahama, North Carolina, and Andrew Walla of Poteet, Texas, as well as those you on Instagram that inspired today's main topic: where and when to shoot elk.
Where and when to shoot elk. We got a lot of stuff on that. You talked about, there was one of our episodes where you talked about where your daughter hit on that animal.
Yeah.
And that animal, died in no time. And ever since you said that, everybody was wanting to know, where in the heck is that, man?
Yeah, for sure.
So, if people go to our ElkBros site, we actually have an article on our site right now on our recommendations for shot placement on where to shoot an animal. And remember, guys, this is our opinion. And we're going to talk about the reasons for our opinion tonight. And we're going to cover all of these different shots that will kill an elk and put them down. And we're going to talk about that placement. So I think it's real important that you guys know that, but I want you to know ahead of time that, in all the years that I've put in guiding, over 25, and the 37 years I've been hunting elk, we've seen a lot of different hits, and we've seen when they go wrong. And a lot of time when that happens, it's not necessarily because somebody didn't have a good shot. There's all kinds of variables out there that can happen. So I want to thank all you guys that sent questions in on this. And it was great to have, I never heard of Bahama, North Carolina, but I was glad Jimmy sent that in. He's a fellow North Carolinian, and I'm a backwoods North Carolina boy.
No doubt.
So we're going to get with it then right here. You can go to our website and you can always see the shot placement. Now, we're actually going to describe and show on this podcast because this same podcast is actually coming out on YouTube as well. So if you want to see the graphics that we're talking about and what we're doing here, you can hop over to YouTube, because I think right now we're probably about, in this meeting, I'm probably about 10 minutes in. So you'd be able to get a chance to be able to see that and what we're describing. So let's do that right now. And I'm going to pull up some graphics here. And the first one that we're going to talk about, we're actually going to cover the different shots that are good shots if you can make them. They're not necessarily what we recommend, and we're going to tell you why. So we're going to cover the first one. And if you give me a second, I'm going to share this on the screen. And so this shot right here, this is what we call our frontal shot. And when you look at this, the frontal shot, and you guys can jump in anytime that you want, but this frontal shot, when made correctly, is a devastating shot. Devastating, because it's going to go inside that animal. It's going to take everything out. You're only going to get, one hole on this, but I tell you what, that one hole is going to put that animal down very quick. The problem with this shot is if you do not know the anatomy of an elk, a lot of guys will shoot right down here in the bottom right here where that dark mane meets the brisket right here. And that's not the shot that you want to shoot, because that is actually the brisket bone right in here. You go anywhere off to the side, you go low, or even just right in there, and you're stabbing that animal in the brisket. That is a wounded critter that is not going to go down. So I want you to understand that this shot is about anywhere from 7 to 9 inches tall to about 6 to 7 inches wide. I'm going to show you another look at this, and this is a different view. Now you take a look at this view, and that kind of gives you a little bit better idea where you can see that brisket right here at the bottom of the mane, okay? And you can see the size of this right here to bottom, side to side. That is your portal right there. At 20 yards and under, if you are somebody that has experience, if you're not shaken by the experience of having this sucker that close to you, and you're a dead-eye shot, I am not able to tell you that this is a shot you should take. I'm going to do exactly the opposite, guys. Gilbert,
Amen.
Chow.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you that I do not recommend this shot, because I don't know you. I don't know your ability. I don't know how you're going to act with this animal. I don't know how well you can recognize how much you're quartering, because even this shot, if you look at this, this animal is actually quartering a little bit to the side. So this, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just getting over a cold. So is not even a dead center. It's actually a little bit off right here. Yep. Now you hit it inside there. I ain't got news for you. Even you hit this sucker dead center, it's punched. Yes, sir. So, but I want you to see that that's quartering. That actually could still come out or end up going out that back leg area right there once it's reamed down that animal. But again, because of all the variables that I don't know about you, your abilities, your confidence level, I don't recommend this shot. It can have a high percentage for wounding.
Yeah. Joe, I've had several opportunities to take a frontal shot like that, and you know as well as I do, 20 yards and in, I'm pretty deadly with a bow.
Yes, you are.
And I'm gonna tell you straight up, I'm on a 99.9% of the time I'm passing that shot. Just because the variables, if he spins, if you just judge him a little wrong, and look, your adrenaline's going to be high. You're going to be pumped. He's probably staring you down when you've drawn. If it's the last, if he's inside of 15 yards, I might take it. But, man, 20 yards and in, that's a tough draw for me.
Now, I want you guys to understand that this shot, when you're trying to see where that center punch area is, you're pretty much dividing from the back of that animal to the belly of that animal, dividing him right in half, mid-body, dead center on that.
Right where your cursor is, just a little left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, again, that is a very lethal. I can never wrong somebody for taking that shot. Right. I am just telling you that if that's a shot that you choose to take, make sure you know your business.
Yeah, it's the kill zone's like the size of a small paper plate, maybe a 6-inch plate.
Right.
And you could probably, thread that all day long in practice, but when he's that close to you and you can feel the breath on you and he's screaming and he hasn't seen you and he's just walking straight at you, it's a little bit different. I would not take the shot at all, but I know that, Gilbert's capable, and I think Joe too, if that opportunity ever arose, but it's not something that, I would look for.
Now, when you look at this animal, to help line you up, they have the linea negra right there.
Right.
What we call black line. Right. And that pretty much splits them in half, and then your mid body. Okay. Right. So just so that, and I want you to be educated on that, because if you hear things from other people, I see a lot of people put a dot right down on here, and you're asking for danger down there, and where that meets, where that
you're gonna hit
dark green meets right there. You're going to hit the sternum.
and look, we shoot, a lot of guys that hunt elk shoot hammers, right? I mean, when I say shoot hammers, they shoot a bow that's really capable of some high KE and kinetic energy. They shoot a heavy arrow, a big broadhead, a lot of draw length, and I don't care how much you got. When you hit him in that sternum, it's all over. I mean, it's not passing.
It's as much of a battering ram of bone is what you have battering ram of arrow there. So
for sure.
Inside that brisket. Now on this next example,
my favorite.
This is the shot we want. We want a broadside shot, and I want you guys to understand our goal in teaching you, and my goal as a guide, is for my hunter to have 2 holes. That's my goal. If I have 2 holes, I have now increased my odds of recovering that animal so much more, because now we're going to get blood out both sides, and it's going to make that tracking job easier. I'm going to deflate this animal. And when you guys heard Gilbert talking about where that spot was that he aims for, you're seeing it right in this area right here. And I'm going to show you some things. Now, you can see at this leg, and if you look a little bit, this animal's quartering just a little bit. So there's probably a leg coming down right here. It's a slight quarter. It's not much of one. Right? But there's that crease, and his leg straight down. If his leg's forward, it even changes the ball game a little bit more. I'm going to show you why. Okay? We're going to give you the magic of the computers right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking this opacity down.
Oh, it's cool right there, Joe. Y'all are going to want to see this. I promise you. Y'all get to YouTube and check this out, because this will change the way you look at an elk's anatomy.
So what we have here, and I actually want to turn, let's see, we have that there. I'm going to turn that off for right now. But what you're looking at is we have the heart of this elk right down low right here. You can see the liver folded in. You got the lungs right here. This right here is no man's land right here, man. You do not want to be messing with that, because you stick that sucker in the shoulder blade, shoulder bone right here. Some of you guys might get a puncture right through here. Well, I got news for you. Even if you get that puncture right through there, he's going to shear that arrow. You're going to get barely part of one lung, and that animal's going to die 6 weeks to 8 weeks later.
Lived it, Joe, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And those
I needed to be 6 inches to the right. If I was 6 inches to the right, 8 inches to the right, we're gonna celebrate over him instead of find him 6 weeks later.
What were you gonna say, Chuck?
Those of you that are just listening and not seeing the graphic, he's talking about the scapula. You can penetrate that, but it's hard to recover.
And where that scapula comes down to that joint on that shoulder is the thickest location on that animal you can find. You get below that, or even, if that leg's forward and you get back of that elbow, you're getting nothing but brisket down there on the bottom. And you're going to get blood, but that animal is not going to go down. So what we recommend is you take that crease and you go mid-body and you're back 3-4 inches. You can, and I say 3 to 4 inches. You could probably go 5 to 6 back there. I say 3 to 4. And me and Gilbert kind of debate about this, right, bro?
Right. But, no doubt. I mean, I've pulled back as far as 5 or 6 inches, depending on my shot angle. Yeah, my shot angle and everything else. But you know where your cursor is right there, if you move it up just about 3 inches, right there, my daughter hit a bull with a crossbow, and when she hit him, blood flew out of him, and he died in less than 90 seconds. I'm talking feet up. Muerta. I mean,
so you don't
dead,
think
brother.
that she hit that artery underneath the back?
I don't, man. I mean, I don't think it was high enough, but if she did, I mean, look, it killed him stone dead quick, right?
Right.
So I went, I said, I'm going to start aiming in that general vicinity. I'm going to start placing my red dot there, and that's what I'm going to start doing. And you ask Chav, I mean, every bull I've shot, they ain't gone 40 yards,
so,
and they feed up.
And I want you guys to see, if with an animal standing straight with the legs straight down like that, he gets a little bit of protection in that heart area right there. If he's got that leg stepping forward, he exposes this entire area right here. Exactly. I mean, he just exposes that whole heart if he's got it there forward. So it helps.
And their lungs go a lot further forward too, Joe, too, as well. So, if he does have his foot forward, you're going to have a better chance. If you get him in line, you're going to have a better chance of getting both those lungs. And look, I'm just going to tell you, an old wise man that's passed on, who's one of my dear friends, Carl Gamage, kind of one of the founders of this deal with us hunting together. He said this a million times. He didn't care whether it was a field mouse or a bull elephant. If you put an arrow through both lungs of a field mouse or a bull elephant, he's going to die.
That's exactly right.
He's 100% right.
You hit that animal right where we're telling everybody to hit it. You double lung, you get a pass through, you zip through this animal, and you deflate it just like a balloon. That animal, and guys, it doesn't matter if that animal dies in 30 yards or 100 yards, he's going to go down and he's going to die.
He's going to leave a good blood trail.
Yes. And you stay off of it. You be diligent, stay off it for that 30, 45 to an hour. You're not going to, when you come up, you're going to be doing, like I said on the article, you're going to be doing the happy dance. Okay. Because that's going to be there. Now, with that said, I've had people that, when I showed them my dot of where I tell all my hunters to hit, said, well, isn't this the golden triangle right here? So in other words, that area right above the elbow where you have the heart, and there's like a triangle that is formed by the scapula to that shoulder joint all the way down to the elbow. Yeah, it's the golden triangle, y'all, because it's a golden sweet spot. It sure is. You hit it in that spot, again, that animal's going to die. You're most likely going to hit the heart or the top of the heart. The only thing that I tell people is, again, if this guy has his leg a little bit back, it changes that formation. And if by some reason he moves or you jerk, if you come over here to the left side just a little bit, you're in that shoulder, right?
Oh, yeah.
You come back down.
You don't want to be in that shoulder. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you just pull a little bit left there, or you drop a little bit down. Now you're in brisket, you're in leg. So two sides of that golden triangle are kind of a danger zone.
It's kind of the Bermuda Triangle.
There you go. I mean, it's beautiful when you're on the beach.
No doubt. No doubt.
But man, when it gets stormy, it could be ugly. So
you get left of that, and the propensity for guys when they pull, they are going to pull to the left because that's where the torque comes from on a right-handed shooter. Same thing with the left-handed shooter. So
here's the other thing, Gilbert, and I'm going to bring up one of our buddies, Luis Gonzalez. Luis, he shot a bull exactly in this crease right here, but that bull was quartering away. So what happened was he got one lung, it punched out the front shoulder on the other side. And let me tell you people, you guys that are listening to this, that bull bled for 300 yards like somebody was taking gallon buckets and throwing blood all over the place.
Yeah, Ray Charles could follow that blood trail.
In a heartbeat, man. And we followed that animal, and we followed it, and we followed it. And then when we started finding where it was laying down and it was rubbing its chest and sealing up, now that bull died. He had to have died
Somewhere.
5-6 weeks later. We tracked that bull from daylight after we waited our time and tracked that bull. We tracked that bull from that time for, 9 hours till that evening.
Yeah, and that was 5 of us doing that. So
yeah,
it was real intense tracking. And then he went back the next day and tried to do it again. Yeah,
and we looked for birds. We did everything we could, and Luis felt horrible, and I don't blame him, man. We all go through that, and it's a tough thing. The only thing is it happens. It does happen. It happens to the best of us. It has happened to me one time before.
Again, Joe, if we get away from that golden triangle and he pulls up there to where that spot is, we got a dead bull. Right?
That's exactly right.
He's got enough wiggle room there that if he is left or right, it ain't going to matter. But if he's down in that golden triangle and that animal's quartering, well, you're only going to get one lung.
Only going to get one lung. And here's the other thing that I don't like sometimes is if you do get an angled shot, or if it does hit a rib and turn, or if it is getting just barely any penetration for whatever reason, a lot of times what happens is this animal runs, comes back, and shears that arrow off. Yeah. And if you hit in here, most likely you are not going to get a pass through on the other side because of that leg bone on the other side. Mm-hmm. And when he shears that off, that flap of skin, if you look underneath their armpit, that's real free moving in there, and that flap of skin will cover that hole. That animal will bleed internally.
Right.
And even though that animal is going to go down and die, your tracking job has it's become incredibly hard.
Right.
Because understand that these animals, look at this critter. This is a horse with horns, and they run like one.
No doubt.
When they start getting with the program and they start going up a hill, and they can go through stuff that you would not believe, man, it can make it's tough enough a tracking job sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. On a good hit.
Yeah. And we've been on our hands and knees looking for pin drops at times and found that animal dead. But because if you only got one hole and something happens that they seal that up, or it moves on that skin, or it starts bleeding internally, makes for a really tough job. So that's why we totally recommend that shot be mid-body, 3 to 4 inches back behind that crease. Again, I want you to see what that animal looks like when we start taking that up. And now you can actually see what that area looks like. Now, this guy has a very well-formed, this is a big old bull right here. Yep. He has a very well-formed shoulder. He's actually a little over-muscular. A lot of these bulls, a younger bull, that crease is going to run right about here.
Right.
He has a load on him right here. This guy he's old, mature, and he's carrying some beef on him. So a lot of those creases are going to be right up here on the front. So again, you can see where we're at, mid-body, about 3 inches back behind that crease right here, and we have a double lung. You give 2 holes, and again, you're cooking with Crisco. Okay.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, I'd like to add a footnote about that elk. I know some of you are listening and can't see it, but if you get on YouTube, you will. This is the bull that we were talking about. We had already got our camp, set up. We had broken down. We were loaded the truck. It's 1 o'clock. It's about 95 degrees. Mm-hmm. And he came down with 2 satellite bulls and about 20 cows. Yep. So you're looking at him. He's actually standing in a little waller.
He's standing in a waller. Came down here with his cows at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Man. So that was a photo that I took of that bull. So.
And look at that mouth. Awesome. That boy is screaming. He was screaming the whole time coming down at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So when we tell you guys, man, to hunt that midday.
Yeah, you'll see these.
There it is right there.
Yep.
Okay. Now, this next one that I'm going to show you is real important, because this is when an animal is quartering away. Now, this is the mistake that Luis made. he was so focused on that crease that he came right up from that crease and he pegged that elk right here. Now, I guarantee you that's a dead animal, but because of that angle right there, he got the front of one lung and blew out the front shoulder of that animal right there. Yeah. Had he instead, anytime those animals, like if they're standing broadside and you're trying to figure out what the angle is, when you see the leg on the other side, it tells you. Now, if this was looking at just the opposite, where we had two legs we could see like that, well, now we're on a frontal shot, right?
Sure.
We do not take a quartering two shot. Do not take a quartering two shot. Can it be made? There is a place where you can thread the needle on that. Now, I'm talking archery. Rifle, whole different business, okay? This shot right here, same thing with a rifle, though.
Yeah.
You always aim at that other leg on the other side. Mid-body right here, now you're taking out both lungs. If you look at this bottom one right here, I'm just going straight up. So an animal standing away, and I can see the opposite leg on the opposite side. I'm going right up that leg, and I am taking that shot mid-body, okay? If he's quartering any more than this, you're asking for trouble.
Yep.
You're asking for trouble. So that's
especially if you get a little deflection from a rib,
Right.
We'll get a little deflection if we catch one of those big ribs. If you're lucky enough to pass through the center of it, you never see it. But a lot of times we'll catch a little bridge of that rib and it'll move that arrow forward a little bit.
Right. And, you can look at these animals, and both these animals almost look like they're the same, but this one's actually a little more broadside than this one down here on the bottom.
Yeah, that one down on the bottom's a lot steeper. Mm-hmm.
Now, if I have a quartering to me shot with a rifle,
yeah,
that's a whole different ball game.
We're letting him rip. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that can be made all day long. But when we're doing this with a bow, again, this shot right here, same thing. And I hope everybody, if you don't understand, and we're trying to explain it with the visuals that we have and trying to make sure that you can hear it. But again, if I had to tell you without you being able to see anything, a quartering away animal, find the leg on the opposite side, go straight up it, mid-body, tunk, that's your spot right there, okay? If you got an animal, you got an animal broadside, you find that crease, you go up, straight up, mid-body, come back away from that crease, away from the shoulder, about 3 to 4 inches, tunk, that's your spot right there. Now, rifle hunter, a different deal. Now, and I'll tell you this too, even with the rifle, you got to ask yourself how much meat you want to mess up, okay? Yeah. Because, I've seen guys that their theory is to blow that shoulder out and then you're good because that animal is going to go down, he's not going to be able to run. Well, if I was to do something like that, then doggone it, I'm right above the elbow. Now I'm aiming in that golden triangle right there, right above the elbow, and I'm going to put that animal down. You still might, if he's quartering, like this animal, I guarantee he's got a little bit of a leg right here. You might blow out the other shoulder. So that's something for you to think about right there.
That top diagram, Joe, is almost the exact shot that I made at 69 yards. And I shot him probably about 4 inches higher than where we are in the center right there. That bull died within, 50 feet, Chad?
Right. Oh, probably less than that.
So you bring up a good point, Gilbert, and one thing and one of the reasons that we do that spot here. So let's say that you do pull off, and I think you guys, I watch people shoot. If you flinch, you might end up being 2 inches either high, right, left, right, okay, maybe 3 inches. Even if you were 4 inches right here, if you were that by aiming at that point, you are still golden.
Money.
Okay, so
money.
That's real important for you guys. I hope this has helped you. I hope that helps you understand. And what I do now is I usually take people that I'm teaching about and taking them out for the first time. I go through a magazine on elk and I have them look at it and boom, with a pen. Where are you going to shoot? Where are you going to shoot? Because you want to get yourself lined out the same way. You want to get yourself lined out that way, the same way as if you were in a live situation. So instead of having a diagram out there now, you can say, okay, he's quartering away up the leg, boom, right there. Okay. Or I don't take that shot. Why? Okay.
Sure.
So that's the where part of this. All right. And
That makes sense.
I'm kind of getting rid of everything else here right now so that my desktop's not so crowded.
Cluttered,
doing the rest
right?
of it. Yeah. So let's talk about now the when part. And, that really refers to when and how to draw or how to take a shot with the rifle. So you have an animal, and think about that at the beginning. Gilbert, by the way, man, your intro, that was the bomb, man.
I appreciate it, man. We hit that one. We hit a home run with that one today for sure, Joe.
I don't know about you, but I was like,
good.
Oh man, I got my heart going right now.
Well, hey man, that's the moment of truth, and I've been there so many times. And for all the listeners out there, I've messed up more than I've won, but I've been able to put a pretty good streak together here the last few years, and it's all about making those right decisions. And this is the coup de grace of knowing when to do it, and for me, it's just about reading the animal, and then picking my spot,
Definitely.
And I'm going to always have myself in front of cover, and I don't care if the animal's looking at me to draw. I really don't. I'm going to cover my draw. I mean, I'm going to let you go through a bunch of that, Joe, but I'm going to cover my draw when I go. Usually I'm going to stop him if I need to, if he's walking, but I don't take a walking shot. I don't take a trotting shot. I mean, it's you learn to get that animal stopped and read his body and then send it.
So, and I've had to kind of change things a little bit because for me and the things that affect me, being a finger shooter with only 60-some% let off, and I don't get to hold that bow back all day long. But there's a lot of you guys now, man, y'all see a bull coming and you can pull that bow back and hold it for a long time before they get in that shooting range. So
I don't like to do that, Joe, because my form gets bad,
Okay.
And the longer I hold it, the worse my form will get. So, man, can I hold it for 3 minutes? Yeah. I mean, I sit in front of my TV all the time with my target in front of me and an arrow knocked up. And I can watch TV for 3 to 4 minutes and hold it. But I can tell you this, when I shoot like that, my form gets a little weak.
It's going to break down. Now, the difference, though, is you're not on a range where you're thinking about everything. Just that adrenaline factor a lot of times changes the fact that you don't even know how long you hold it. So that part is in there. But as far as when to draw, I will tell you guys that I have, and so many times when this has occurred, is that an animal will be coming across 20 yards, 15 yards, 12 yards, I don't care. And then a lot of people, when they see that animal's going to put their head behind a tree, they'll start their draw, okay? And what happens with that is by the time, because you're drawing smooth, by the time you finish your draw, that guy's eyes are already on the other side of the tree. And I have had this happen time after time after time, that as soon as they do that, they stop, they freeze, and they look at you. And when they do that, where's the kill zone, Chow?
Right behind the tree.
Yeah, 99.9% of the time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right behind the tree.
So if you will wait, the best time to draw for you to make a motion on an animal is when that animal is moving, because everything is moving for them. That's why 99.9% of the time when we've drawn on animals and they've caught motion coming up, all they've done is stop, boom,
Absolutely.
and turn and look at us, right? So
Same
thing, man. If that bull is coming, wait till they clear. Wait till that head clears on the other side. Then do your draw, because now he is going to do one of two things. He's either going to stop and look at you, or he's going to booger because he saw something moving, and you're going to real fast, and I guarantee he's going to stop, turn, and look at you. maybe another 10 yards, maybe another 15 yards further, and you're going to have that shot right there.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is about these animals. When you stop them and they turn broadside. 95% of the time they go turn.
The reason they do that,
broadside.
Gilbert, is they're not sure. They're actually so they can get a good look at you, but they're in position so that they can still run off in the other direction.
I agree.
So it's just a safety factor for them. So now, let's say that you're able to draw and pull back when they're screened. It happened for me this year. You know, my animal wasn't going by one tree. He was going by, I mean, it was a perfect situation, totally screened for about 2 steps. So as soon as he got behind it and I drew, now the animal is moving through my sight windows. And all I got to do with that diaphragm call in my mouth is, yeah. And that bull will stop and look at me, tunk, and I'm releasing. So that's the same thing for rifle hunters as it is for archery hunters. If you have an animal that's moving, you can stop them with a cow call. All right. And I have a little story here that I'm going to keep it short because you ain't going to hear the whole first part of it. I'll tell the whole part one day. But I ended up in a situation with a bull walking down a trail coming straight towards me, and immediately, and I always sit down, I'm on my knees. I like to be on my knees. I like to be low to the ground so that I can see under the branches, because that's how everything kind of goes where we are in this part of the country. And I'm down on my knees, and this animal's going, and I'm checking my shooting lanes to see where he's going to cross. And as I'm looking, I look, and he's on a trail. And so on that trail, I start following that trail with my eyes, and I'm like, okay, there it goes, up around that tree, back over by that scrub oak. It's coming over, and crap, I'm sitting on it. I mean, I was, and
right,
buddy, that bull walked right down that trail, and at 10 yards, in my mind, I went, somebody's got to make something happen right here because it's getting ready to get real western real fast. So at 5 yards, I drew, and I say yards, I bet he wasn't 5 feet, Gilbert. Yeah. I mean, I could have reached out and smacked him on the nose.
Right.
But I drew, and I screamed a bugle at the same time as I was drawing. And me doing that froze him for that split second. You could just see the wheels turning in his head. And then he turned completely broadside. All I had in front of me was doggone fur. I mean, there was nothing but tan right there. And I mean, I just put it right in behind that last rib there, and it just drilled him. But the point of the story is that sometimes in those situations, and I did that with that big bull that I killed, if you bugle when you're drawing at the same time, that animal sees movement and they associate that with another bull. Sure. And the first thing they do is they see that movement and they turn, they stop, and they look. And it gives you that second that you need to get that shot off. And they're locked, all right? So that's something that, when to draw is, again, if they're moving and they're coming across, wait till they're in your shot area. Now, sometimes you'll cow call and they won't stop. I've seen that happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, good example of drawing back while they're running. Remember last year when we were on that road early in the morning in the burn, when I got mine, we saw the bull coming down the hillside.
Right.
And he crossed right in front of us, less than 30 yards.
Right.
Probably like 20. And he came to a screeching halt, but I had already drawn. So when he came to a screeching halt, the arrow was already in its way.
Right, because he drew knowing that animal was getting ready to come across his sight picture. I give a cow call. He put the brakes on and turned, and it was too late at that point.
Yeah, he was like, "Uh-oh, I'm dead."
Yeah. So, when to shoot? I agree with you, Gilbert. Moving or stopped.
Yeah, got to be stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it can't. I guess if you were real close or something like that, but I'm trying to stop him the whole time.
Right.
He would have to be inside of 20 again, 12, 15 yards if I'm going to take a walking shot.
Right.
But man, I'm just telling you, if you guys can stop him, y'all can put it where you want to. Then there's a lot of variables when you're hunting elk, and you want to try to make everything stack in your favor. I mean, you know, the whole universe and the stars got to align to make this deal happen. And the better you can stack the deck for yourself on when to draw and when to let it go is paramount, man. And I think the more you do it, Joe, the better you're going to feel at it.
You know, and again, hunting and killing animals becomes habitual. You get that first one under your belt, you know, it gets easier each time. And I'm not saying that it gets easier to kill something. It just gets easier to understand the moment. It's kind of like when you know, I always go back to my coaching, but sometimes when you're first doing your coaching, the game moves way too fast, man. You just can't keep up. But after you start getting a few games under your belt, it starts to slow down and you can see things in front of you. So that's kind of what I'm talking about there. And being in that position gets to be a habit. So we're going to go to our ElkBros mailbox now. And because I think we did a great job on covering that. If we didn't, guys, and you have questions, give us a yell. Now, I want to tell you, a lot of you guys that have sent some questions in, I sent back that, you know, we're going to answer your questions in this next episode. But we've gone a little time already, and I'm not sure if we'll get everybody in. So we've got letters from Chad Hashin, Mark Newman, Zach Reiswig from Idaho, Tim Curtis from West Virginia, and Chip Nelson from Jamestown, New York. And so, guys, I want you to know, as we go down these, if we don't get to you this week, we're going to put you on the next episode. So I do not want to short any of these questions. So understand that you guys are going to be on, and you will get your questions answered, but we want to make sure we answer them as good as possible. So I think right now we're either at an hour already or we're a little bit over it. So
we ought to be able to get a couple of them in, Joe.
Yeah, let's try to get 2 of these in, okay?
You bet. You bet.
And I'm wondering if it was Chad, man. We had a review, Gilbert, from somebody in Grand Junction that said, man, you guys doing a great job, even if one of you are a Texan.
I saw that, man. That's hilarious. Even if one of you are a Texan.
Yeah, that's
all right, man. You don't hate the player, hate the game.
So this is from Chad Hashin, and he's originally from Grand Junction. I'm not sure where he's at, but he actually had 2 questions in here. And one of them says, when you guys have talked about putting the elk meat into ice water baths in the coolers, do you have the meat in sealed bags or is it in the water? I'm assuming it's bagged, but maybe that's a way to age it when it's too warm to hang. And Chad, it's meat to water. We're leaching that meat in that water. It'll leach that blood right out of it.
He may have heard me talk about cheesecloth bag or a game bag, Joe. You know, a lot of times we put our meat, you know, when we hauling our meat back to camp, we'll put it in one of those cheesecloth game bags. But
and very seldom do we do that.
Right. But once we butcher it and everything, it goes straight on ice, you know, meat to ice and meat to water. Yeah,
we're deboning it. We're covering it in ice. We're letting that ice melt down on its own in there and create an ice bath. And what you'll find is, guys, is that when you hang meat, well, I have never hung my elk. The only time I hang it is just to cut the meat off the bone.
Right.
I don't leave it to cure that way. We do an ice bath for 5, 6, 7 days. And when you hang meat,
so good to eat.
it gets that dried layer on there that you actually have to cut off. Now, when we soak it, some of that becomes like you'll get some of that slimy outside texture there, but that's so easy to trim and you don't lose any meat. It's so cold to work with. It's beautiful. The blood gets leached out of the meat and really gives you a nice clean piece, and the taste is just phenomenal.
It is.
We've always
makes a huge difference.
Yeah, really is. It really is.
Everybody comes over to my house, eats elk meat. They're like, what in the world was that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you're blessed because my wife fed you some of our elk meat. Normally she only keeps it for herself. At the end of the day, they're like, wow. I mean, I've had elk and it tasted kind of pungent. And I'm like, yeah, well, they didn't do a very good job of keeping it clean and keeping it cold.
So we never hang cure meat, y'all.
Right.
It stays in an ice bath until we're ready to butcher it, or if you want to take it to a processor to do it. So it's in big muscle groups the way we take it off and debone it off the animal. It's really quality. We even make our own elk burger. We do all of that here. So
you bet.
So how long have you kept the meat in the water? What's the longest period of time?
So we've had it in when we've come down. We've brought it in from hunting camp. We were on day one. And the guys came in, and I think that one we took to the processor. So we've probably had it in 5 days to I bet 9 days in an ice bath.
I know mine was. I mean, we I killed that big bull on the third day, and we were there another 7. So by the time I got home and to the processors, were probably another 3.
Yeah,
so because my processor's they're not open on Monday. So I got home Monday, and I couldn't take him in there until Tuesday. So I bet you it's 10, 11 days before I had mine. But we drained the water off, and then put new ice and add more ice.
Yeah, exactly. And when I go to work in that meat, that water, it hurts your hand to put your hand inside of it. That's how cold it keeps it. So it's just above freezing there.
Yeah. So if you're wondering about, how long you could keep it there, it's quite a long time.
Quite a long time, man. Yes, quite a long time. All right. His part 2 of his question. He says, I know you guys are talking elk, but I was wondering if you had any information to share on bears or mountain lions. Even if you don't hunt them, have you had encounters with the predators while closing in on a herd of elk? I've heard stories of cats stalking archery hunters while the hunters have been stalking elk. I thought you guys might be able to share some good stories and offer some insight into that part of archery elk hunting too. And that is a tremendous question, Chad. And because I'll tell you, maybe I don't have.
We could do a whole podcast on the encounters of the other creatures.
Close encounters of the wrong kind.
Yes, the close encounters of the wrong kind. I've got some stories that Carl used to tell about mountain lions and Carl Gamage and R.C. Knox,
real good buddies of ours, were out in the Viavidal. And if you guys haven't heard of the Viavidal, it's a once in a lifetime hunt, public land that you can put in to draw here in New Mexico. Over 100,000 acres, and it's some of the most pristine, beautiful country you'll ever see. And these two fellows were hunting this, and they were out in an area and had a bull screaming. Carl was up front with his bow, and Carl shoots a stick bow, and RC's back behind being the caller. And this bull is screaming, and I mean, Carl just centered on that bull coming in. That's his focus, is that bull. And this big, huge bull has just got both their attention, and RC's working. And all of a sudden, RC catches a little bit of movement off to his right and kind of looks over there just a little bit, took his eye off Carl, and he looked and said, God dang, man, that's the biggest coyote I've ever seen. And then all of a sudden, he saw this thing flip up, and it was a cat's tail. And that cat was locked in on Carl, not 30 yards from the boy. And I mean, RC starts going, Carl.
Not wanting to scare the bull.
Didn't want to scare the bull elk. And he's like, Carl. And so finally he goes, in his mind, he's like, this is the wrong time to not worry about scaring that bull elk. And he steps and goes, Carl, cat! Carl jumps up, man. He jumps up. What? And the doggone cat got scared and run off. But, I mean, for that cat, that's 2 bounds, man.
Hey, look, if RC doesn't come unwound there, that cat's going to jump on Carl Gamage. Now, I'm going to tell you something about old Carl. that cat had had all he wanted out of Carl Gamage. I
Yes,
promise
sir.
you. I
He would have
promise
gone down fighting, man.
you. Yes, sir. But they're out there. You know, Chav and I had a real close encounter of a bear kind this year back where my kill site was. And we got up there and were caught without any type of gun, bow, anything, just our bugle tube and a diaphragm call. And I've never felt so inferior in my life and scared. But Chad knew exactly what to do.
We went back to look for your hat. So
that's right.
We didn't have our bows or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's a big Bruin, man.
So I guarantee you guys too that I know here in New Mexico, especially if there's any acorns in the oak brush, and just about even if there's not, because these bears will come into cow calls. Year before last, I shot my bull elk cow calling, got him to come in the bedroom at about 15 yards.
Yep.
And we're waiting for that bull to go down, and it was not 5 minutes later. Here comes the bear looking for that cow and that calf that he heard. We shot a bull and a bear within 10 minutes of each other.
Pope and Young bear.
Yeah, that's exactly
Registered
right.
Pope and Young.
That was tag teamed by Luis and Manano and
our Venezuelan mafia.
Yeah, they put it to him. Let me tell you. But I guarantee you, and when Luis called me, he didn't have a bear tag, and he's like, Joe, we'd really like to come into elk camp. And he said, do you think we'll have an encounter? And I pretty much said, yeah. Pretty much every time I'm on an elk hunt, I have at least one close encounter with a bear. Now, bears
especially if I don't have a tag.
Yeah. Yeah. And bears don't freak me out. I don't carry a handgun. I've never carried a handgun. I'm pretty confident with my bow. My wife says, but what are you doing after the second arrow? But that's just how it's been for me. And I've shot a lot of bear with my bow already. So, man, I tell you that you can put them down pretty fast. So,
yeah, Joe, I think for me, I was very new to bear country, but black bears for me are just gigantic raccoons, and their mentality, they're very curious animals, right? And once they figure out that you're a human, they're as scared of you as you are of them.
Oh, most definitely.
Unless they got cubs, unless you run up on a sow that's got some cubs, then you got some issues. You got some decisions.
And you need to get away from that anyway, because you can't shoot that sow with cubs. So
now you boys up in Montana, Idaho, they're grizzly country.
A whole different ball game.
Way different ball game, fellas.
Yeah.
Right. I'm carrying a sidearm, and a big sidearm, right? So grizzlies hunt people,
right.
And black bears, I hadn't really seen anything.
You need to worry about black bears not out in the wild woods. Where you need to worry about them is down in town, because
for sure they're a lot more bold in town.
Oh man, and those guys get used to people.
Yeah. And they're dangerous. They're dangerous in town for sure.
Yeah, they'll come into people's houses. I mean, a year ago, we had an elderly lady in Mora got killed by a bear in her house. Yeah, came in the house and yeah. Anyway, so you can have those encounters now. As far as cats go, that's very, very seldom. But I got news for you. Mountain lions, I might not be too intimidated by bears. Mountain lions scare the crap out of me, because that's a killing machine.
And they're big.
They
can
are.
Be
Apex
really
predator,
big.
man. When they're hungry, they eat.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
That's exactly right. So we're going to go from Chad to Mark Newman from Indiana, and we'll probably end on Mark here. I know we're going a little long today, guys, but I'm hoping we're giving you some great content here, and we'll hit Zach, Tim, and Chip, and whoever else writes in this week. We'll hit them on the next one. But Mark actually it was several parts to his, and I want to kind of hit part of this, because he says that he's going to try finding the most secluded area he can find in the forest, because he figures elk are like all wild animals, less pressure the better. And you guys can't see Gilbert shaking his head, but he's like, well, not always.
I'm elk are gonna be where they're at, and for me, they're herd animals. So if they're in those less pressured areas, okay. But just because an area is pressured doesn't mean they're not going to have any elk. I'm going to tell you that
exactly right.
now.
Because again, too, understand that elk at one time were never even mountain animals. They were plains animals, and
that's right.
they adapted to the situation. And elk are incredibly adaptive, and they can live near subdivisions. The other day I was driving between here and another small town, and there were 5 bulls 50 yards off the road eating. And if they were that frigid and jumpy, you'd never see those critters around people. But they learn about areas that if it has what they need and people are leaving them alone, not going after them or chasing them, then they learn to adapt and deal with those people. And places like Colorado where, people are on those trails camping and hiking all the time, I guarantee you those elk have adapted to that. So I'll just tell you, Mark, I think a lot of people think like you as far as what that statement is. And a lot of people head way back in there. And so you end up on top of each other and what they think is secluded.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something to that too. Way back in there may not have the food source. Elk are slaves to their bellies. And I'm going to tell you right now, way back in there or up high or whatever, it just may not have the sustainable food source that the cows want so they can sustain themselves. And
those animals are going to follow the snow line.
Yeah,
if there's a snow line, there's going to be green grass. So if that green grass is up high, they'll be where that is. But the point I'm trying to make is that think about the most wild animal you got is those doggone whitetails, and those whitetails will live in little squares in between houses and stuff. So they learn to adapt to those things. So that's something that I want you to think about when you do that. I think sometimes the sweet area is between those way back areas and first mile off of where most people go in. So
I agree.
Right inside there. His second question was, I also want to stretch my shot capabilities out to 50, 60 yards. Do you think that is too far for a shot if you're capable of making those shots accurately? No, I don't.
No.
However,
if you want to shoot at 50, 60, start shooting 80, 90.
Yeah, and the other thing is understand that at 50 and 60 yards, other variables can come in that you're not able to control.
Big time.
You could be the most accurate shot there is, and that animal could hear something, turn, move, and now a broadside shot ends up being a shot in the rear end. Yeah. And that's just something for you to think about. The closer that shot is, and that's something I was going to say about shot placement up there earlier, is I don't think guys are patient enough. And, a lot of times you feel like, at 50 or 60 yards, if I don't take that shot, I'm not going to get that in. Well, challenge yourself. That's why you're a bow hunter. Find some of those animals and tell them, okay, well, I'm going to count coup on this animal until that animal gets 40 or under. Right. And if you haven't heard our part about counting coup is knowing that you could kill an animal without doing it. And, you might learn a lot about yourself, and you might learn a lot about the animal as well, and get way closer shot. How many times, it's funny because there's those times after we kill an elk and we come across them and we're like calling them in. And it's like, man, it was supposed to be harder than this, and they'll come right in on us.
Right.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I'll tell you, Chav and I, after we killed bulls that morning, we called in 7 more. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like once the pressure's off and you're not worried about having to make a shot, it's like, oh man, they're all right on top of me now.
Yeah. I wonder if Mark has taken a 50, 60 yard shot at a whitetail, for example.
That's tough. It's tough. That's a tall order.
That's a small target, huh?
Yeah. That, and if those guys hear anything, they're ducking,
they're dropping down.
Whitetails actually can duck, elk will rotate.
They'll spin, right.
They'll spin. Yeah. They rotate on an axis, and whitetails actually go down.
Right.
So Mark, I would tell you that, heck, yes, you can make a 50 and 60 yard shot, but you need to be practicing 70 and 80 yards. That'll, guys want to know, how can I get good at 40? Well, shoot 50 and 60 and you'll drag those groups into like that.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
40,
It just
50,
tightens them up.
It'll tighten them up. And you
he's
can
not
do
telling
it.
he's not telling you shoot 80 or 90 to plan on shooting an animal. At
No,
80
no,
or 90,
no.
But
to tighten that 50, 60 yard.
Yeah.
group up.
When you shoot those longer shots, it tightens up those closer shots. Yeah. It just helps you zero on, aim small, miss small. So
I can't tell you how much that helped me shooting at distance.
Right.
Shooting out to 100. I mean, we practice it to 100 yards. I'm not saying I'd ever take a shot like that, because I probably wouldn't, but well, I have. But at the end of the day, it was out of necessity. We'd already hit the bull once, but
right.
At the end of the day,
that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I practice my first shot in the mornings from 83 yards, because that's as far as I can shoot. That's my first shot in the morning, and we work our way in.
Yeah.
So, but it makes those 50-yard shots look like a 20-yard shot.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Gilbert and Joe both shoot nuclear bows. So, once they release, it's just a second later, it's going to hit them. Because I've seen both of them hit elk at 60 or more.
I think a part two, Mark, is to understand an elk's body language. Because if you had an animal, if you had an elk in front of you broadside and that elk's down there chewing grass, that shot is good as gold right there. He's not going to spin off of it. But
if he's staring you down,
if he's looking at you, that's all.
Yeah, that's a no shot.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, so the third part, it'll be the middle of September, and we'll be around 9,000 feet. And I got news for you, 9,000, good area. So I'm hoping the bulls will be very active. Well, it's the middle of September, so you're looking at the 15th. They're going to be active, man.
You bet, buddy.
They're going to be very active. And also, I don't think it matters whether it's 9,000 feet, though. Those animals, you might make sure you have scouted, because if again, the snow line and that grass is not good up there, they might be at 7,000. They might be at 6,500, So this year already, I put out on Instagram, I sent a picture of a bunch of acorns that are happening down in our lower areras. Yes, sir. Acorn crop is coming out. And that's at 7,000, 6,500 right in there. And I got news for you. That place is going to be loaded with elk with those acorns in there.
And bears.
Yeah, and both of them. So as far as that, they should be very active. But it's not necessarily because that 9,000, you're going to be there at a good time of year. Okay.
Be ready for all types of weather at 9,000, brother.
Yeah.
Hot and cold, because it can snow up at 9,000.
Sure can. He says, I've rattled in some whitetails. I just hope the elk are just as aggressive when the rut is in as a whitetail. Now, I don't know what to tell him on that, because I don't know much about the whitetail rut, Gilbert.
Yeah, look, whitetails are crazy when they get in the rut and they fighting and going nuts. Elk are the same way.
Won't they?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's when the whitetails lose their mind and they don't care about anything else. And I'm going to tell you, the same thing goes with an elk.
Yeah.
When they're rutting in full rut and they're chasing cows, and you start banging on a tree and getting your hoochie mama warmed up, I'm telling you, partner, they ain't happy. When they come in, that you'll see, I've been so close to them, you can see the blood rush into their eyes. They get blood red. I mean, yeah, they're very, very aggressive.
And the thing I want to tell you about that too, Mark, is that prior to the rut, a bull's priorities are 1, seclusion, 2, food, and third, water.
Yep.
And, well, when those cows start coming in heat, his first priority is breeding.
Yep.
His second priority is breeding. His number 3 through number 50 is breeding.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, it's going to be food, water, and shelter. So that's just something, to remember. That's
he's
why
wondering too. I think he's wondering too, if you rattle the horns and stuff like. You really don't rattle elk horns, but you take you take a big stick and run it up and down a tree, and that probably works good.
Yeah, and I've been hearing some guys that'll take a little small group of not too small because otherwise it doesn't sound like, but they'll take like a small 5x5 group of antlers and do some tip rattling, and have had
tickling.
some. Now, if you want to carry them horns around with you,
no doubt.
God be with you. So
yeah. Don't fall down.
All right. So his last part of his question is, my biggest concern is adapting to the elevation, and it should be in some ways. Any pointers on that will be greatly appreciated. And now, before I go too far with that, and I said it should be something you worry about. However, guys, you do not have to be these extremist guys that are doing triathlons and warrior runs and stuff like that. How much you're in shape is going to be directly related to help you with your success, but it should not keep you from being in the elk woods. There's all different levels of elk woods out there, and you just need to check that out. But as far as the elevation goes, Gilbert, you have to deal with that all the time.
Yeah, I don't live there. So us flatlanders, when we come there, I try to get there two days early to try and acclimate. I get on an aspirin regimen. Please check with your doctor before
definitely.
you do something like that. I get on an aspirin regimen about a week before I come. Helps get my blood a little thinner. But the biggest thing is just time up there. And I try to come a couple days early if I can, get into camp, don't rush things, go on a couple of little walks, stuff like that, just kind of get acclimated. And look, I'm an asthmatic, so I keep an inhaler with me. And, if I feel like I'm getting real tight chested, I give me a little hit off that inhaler and we're good to go. But, the biggest thing with elevation is time. And then keep getting your butt in shape. If you can, guys, if you can run a mile, you can fight a minute. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of work being at that elevation. So, man, don't come up there without putting the work in, or you're going to suffer the first couple of days.
Now, I'm 57 years old, and Chab is 10 years my senior.
Yeah.
So, what about for you, Chab, out there?
Get in shape. I know being from lower altitude, maybe on some of your walks wear a painter's mask or just a mask, where it's a little bit harder to breathe, because you may encounter something like that the first time up here. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
Like Carl said, put a plastic bag over your head.
Yeah. Walmart bag over your head and cut one little hole in the center. And you can do that, walk around the block 10 or 15 times, you'll be ready.
Yeah, and if you're hunting at 9,000 feet or anywhere like that, you got to do some steps somewhere.
Yeah.
Or, steps on the machine or
real
steps. Yeah, don't use the elevator anymore, because it's a little bit different. The ground's not going to be level.
And I want y'all to know,
level up there.
So last week, Loretta and I got back from a cruise for our 37th anniversary. The cruise ship had 12 floors on it. We were on floor number 10, and food was on floor number 11. Everything else was on floor number 1. And did not use the elevator once, buddy, man. We just up and down them steps the whole time, because trying to commit to that as well. And we're from the altitude, but I do want to tell people, though, there's a thing called HIT training, HIT.
Yep.
It's high intensity training. It's quick, it's hard, and you can do it with different things. There's a thing called a Tabata. And what a Tabata is basically, even if you're doing some sprints, it's like 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, and then 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. It is harder than heck. And you can do it with lifts, you can do it with running, you can do it with all kinds of different things. But the whole design of that Tabata and HIT training is to make you work without that much recovery. And I think that's better for the high altitude than anything, because there's going to be times that you're going to go and blow, and then you're going to have to slow down, and you're going to have an animal in front of you, and you got to recover. So that's why I'm saying that type of high intensity training, look up Tabata on the internet, look up HIT HIT training, and do some research on it. And it's that hard, fast stuff. And that's what I recommend for guys that are coming up from low altitude to high altitude.
Another thing, man, guys, hydrate. You got to stay hydrated.
The whole time.
That's
Yes, sir.
It's a big thing, and you're not going to feel it because it's going to be real cool. And if you're like me, man, I sweat bad. It is imperative that you start on a hydration process before you get in the mountains.
I don't know where the time has gone, bro, but man, it's we're going to have to get out of this place. So close us out, Gilbert.
Hey guys, what a great show. Awesome content. We hit on some great topics. I can't wait to get to the questions next week. From Joe and Chav in New Mexico, I'm Gilbert Ornelas here in an undisclosed place here in Texas. God bless all of our grinders out there. Kiss your wives, kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadheads sharp and your powder dry, and we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace, y'all.
Have a good week.